If you were to pass away today, how long do you think it would take for anyone to find you? Do you think it would take a couple of hours? Maybe a couple days? A few weeks? Maybe months? In today's video, I'm going to cover two quick stories in which the deceased was not found for a couple years. They laid there forgotten. Hey everyone, Carrie Nicole here. Welcome to Muted Conscience, where I talk about true crime stories, crazy fraud stories, and other bizarre stories. We do respect that these are true stories about real people, and I only want to analyze them and share them with you so that we can prevent ourselves and our loved ones from becoming the next victim. The first story I'm going to cover today is about Lucille Payne. Lucille Payne purchased this beautiful large mansion in 1999 in Las Vegas. The neighbors in the area claimed that the mansion seemed to be abandoned. There was not any activity going on. Lucille Payne lived alone. The mansion at the time was estimated to be worth about $435,000. There's really not a whole lot of information about the personality of Lucille Payne. She didn't really have a lot of close relatives. She was an elderly woman living there by herself. And what I was able to figure out is that Lucille Payne, she planned ahead. So she put all of her bills on auto pay and she followed all the rules. So she kind of flew under the radar. I think that she kind of got forgotten about. The neighbors that lived near Lucille on the same road even reported that the house seemed vacant for years. There wasn't a whole lot of activity going on. However, in 2021, neighbors reported seeing two people digging in the backyard, which was really suspicious since there was no action going on there for years. Investigators looked into this tip seriously, and they were able to find Lucille's body buried in the backyard. They were unable to figure out exactly how Lucille died, but it's estimated that she died in 2018. It took 4 years for anyone to even realize that this woman was gone. So who are these two people digging in Lucille's backyard? It is estimated that in 2018, Lucille passed away in her chair. This is what they think. Around the same time that Lucille passed away, two squatters broke into the house and discovered her body. And rather than calling 911 or alerting any authorities, they decided to take matters into their own hands and take advantage of the situation. The squatters decided together to dismember the remains of Lucille and to bury her in the backyard. She was not buried very deeply, and an officer started to move the dirt and found her arm inside a very shallow grave in the backyard. It gets worse. After the squatters dismembered her and buried her and disrespected her remains completely, they decided to sell off all of her valuables. The squatters were living in her house. They were living off of the proceeds that they got from selling Lucille's valuables and her car. Lucille's manner of death has been labeled as undetermined for now. The way that these squatters handled the situation was just disgusting. Total disrespect for this woman. It's a really sad story. I wish I was able to share more details about Lucille's life story, but there's just not a whole lot of information on that. Payne's estate is now selling the home. The police department did not release the name of the suspects, but it sounds like there were several people that were actually involved in this. My next story is about Joyce Carol Vincent of London. Joyce was born October 19th, 1965. She was reportedly a hardworking woman with a great sense of humor, and she was gorgeous. She was working at a large accounting firm until 2001. She just abruptly quit. No one's really sure what happened or where she went. This is one of the most haunting stories, and it has stuck with me through the years. So she apparently walks out of this great job that she was doing fantastic at, and no one seemed to hear from her ever again. There's not a whole lot of information about Joyce except for what friends and family have said. Joyce was living in some social housing in the United Kingdom. So she walks out of this job and she doesn't really keep good contact with anyone. It's just sporadic for about a year or so. Joyce wasn't known to be on any drugs. She wasn't getting in trouble. So where was she for the past couple of years? It's reported that Joyce didn't really have a close circle of friends. She was distant from her family. She was the type of lady who could get a job anywhere, and she would job hop often. Officials showed up at her apartment to confront her about some unpaid rent. Officials knocked on the door and no one answered. And they got into the apartment. I mean, it had been years since anyone had even seen Joyce. And the unpaid rent was becoming a concern for the landlady and landlord, so they had to get in there. They got inside the apartment. They saw a huge pile of mail that had been untouched, just unopened. They saw a huge stack of dirty dishes. The eerie lighting of the TV illuminated a pile of Christmas presents waiting to be wrapped. And within that pile of presents, they discovered Joyce's remains. Joyce had been there so long that she was now basically a skeleton. She was almost mummified, and she was still clutching a shopping bag. The scene was shocking and eerie and honestly heartbreaking, I'm sure. Here's this beautiful young woman. She was only 38, surrounded by Christmas presents, obviously getting ready to wrap them for people. But where were these people? How could she sit there for this long? It's estimated that Joyce had passed away in 2003, and they're not sure what happened exactly. Some say that it could have been an asthma attack. Others think that it was something to do with a peptic ulcer that she had. Joyce wasn't discovered until 2006, and if it was estimated that she died sometime in 2003, that's a really long time to be sitting there. The neighbors say that they remember a smell at some point within these years. They remember a smell coming from that area where her apartment was, but at the same time, she lived above or near where they kept the garbage bins. So everybody just kind of, it was just something bad in the garbage for a while, which is really sad. A lot of her bills were on auto pay, and also she was getting some assistance. So part of the rent was being covered and that kind of thing, it was reported. So it was easy for her to kind of just fly under the radar for a while. There's a really good docudrama that was on Netflix for a while. Now I don't know where you can find it. It's called Dreams of a Life. The English film director Carol Ann Morley actually put an ad in the paper. She was so haunted by Joyce's story that it was just such a mystery to her, and she wanted to figure out more about Joyce and put a story to this woman and that they had found. Anyway, so she put out an ad in the paper asking for anyone that was connected to Joyce somehow. And certain people did respond, and there were some friends, some old colleagues, and there was even a fiance and other people that she had possibly dated. And she was able to put together a story and make it into this film. And I think it's really well done. Again, everything is sort of based off of hearsay. So we're not exactly sure how accurate it is, but I think it's a beautiful depiction of what Joyce was probably like. I remember when I saw this documentary years ago, it freaked me out so bad, just knowing that someone sat there for years and nobody knew that she had passed away. Just the idea of passing away alone is a horrible thought. But to know that no one was looking for her, it sounds like the family tried to reach out at one point, I don't know, but they weren't able to get a hold of her, and it just makes you wonder what happened for both of these people. There's tons of stories like this. I'll probably do more, but these two just really stuck with me. It's important to learn about stories like this because you don't want to be that person that's not found, or you don't want to have a loved one out there somewhere that is just left unfound for years. It's an eerie feeling knowing that life just goes on without you, whether you're here or not. And there are people out there who have no one. Maybe they've burned bridges. Maybe they're mentally ill and they have messed up a few things in their life and they're just completely out of touch. They don't have anybody checking on them anymore. Maybe it's social anxiety and people just kind of keep to themselves. Or maybe maybe there's some elderly person out there who their loved ones think that, oh, so-and-so's checking on them. Oh yeah, they're fine. Like, so-and-so's got this. And then years go by and it's like, what happened to them? It's just such an interesting topic to me. And I think that we can all learn somehow that try to stay connected with people somehow, even if it's through social media these days, or messaging every once in a while, or if you have a work buddy who's kind of a recluse, if they don't show up to work, maybe somehow check on them, you know. We all have to watch out for each other, whether people are mean or not. We have to somehow keep tabs on each other. I'm going to wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. This one's a little bit quicker than my normal videos. Those take a lot of research, and I'm going to start doing a lot of quick ones like this. I'm also going to start covering some missing persons cases and get those out there as well. If you have any cases you want to share with me, let me know in the comments, or you can email me at mutedconscience@gmail.com, and we can get your stories out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check in on your people.